In this video, I'm going to explain to you how to make your very own shrunken head. Welcome to the Average Me channel. I'm Mark, and in this video I'm going to explain to you step by step how I make my shrunken heads. I have one here, there's one hanging up behind me. I changed the technique just a little bit, mostly with the decoration of it, but this is easy to do. You really don't have to have any skill. The first time you're going to end up with a very successful prop, whether you use it for Halloween or for a tiki bar like I do. You're going to have a lot of fun doing this. Let's start by talking about the supplies you need. And the supplies are really dependent on how you want to work. I use a styrofoam ball for the armature of the whole thing, but you don't have to do that. You can use a ball that you crumple up on a newspaper and hold it together with some tape. You could make a ball out of aluminum foil, just anything to create something to wrap the clay around. You're going to need some twine, mostly for decoration and hanging it. You're going to need some type of artificial hair. I'm going to show you exactly what I use and where I bought it. Mod Podge, you could probably get by without this, but I wouldn't. So you're going to need some Mod Podge and then some paper to use it with. I use tissue paper. I got a whole big package for $1.25 at the Dollar Tree. You could even use Kleenex toilet paper and some paint. And that's going to be about it. So let's talk about how we got started. The first thing you have to understand is a shrunken head really doesn't have the proportions or the shape of a real head. So don't worry about being artistic and about the ratio between the eyes and the nose. Matter of fact, all of the features are exaggerated. You know, in real times, whenever they did this 100, 150 years, I don't know when they made shrunken heads, but they didn't shrink the skull. They shrunk all of the flesh that was around the skull. This is sounding really creepy, isn't it? So there really is no foundation underneath here. So if it looks misshapen, or it doesn't seem to have, well, my chin doesn't look right, or the forehead, or it doesn't have enough cranium, it doesn't matter. It's going to look good. So I did want to add a little bit of shape to mine. So what I did is I had two styrofoam balls, one a little bigger than this one. With that one, I just cut a little bit off, just a tiny little bit to give me a flat surface. Then I took one this size, a little smaller than the other one. You can tell the size comparison, just slightly smaller. And I cut that in half. And I took the half and I stuck it on the flat part of the larger styrofoam ball, and I just attached them with a couple of toothpicks. The reason for it, I wanted a semblance of a skull. You know, if you have a skull, it's not just a round ball. It's a round ball with a little bit more coming down on this side. So that's kind of what I did. If you picture this part as being the big styrofoam ball and this part as being the half of a smaller styrofoam ball. You don't have to do that. That's what I did. Then the next step is to get some modeling clay. I'll link down below where you can get that from Amazon. I just bought, I don't know, a pound, I don't know how big it was. I bought it for about 10 or 12 bucks at Hobby Lobby. And I just started spreading clay around the whole thing. Now this little skull, I'm not going to make a shrunken head with this one. I'm going to make a Fiji mermaid. I actually bought an entire skull. It's Halloween time, so I was able to buy an entire skeleton rather at the Dollar Tree. So it cost me like $1.25, something like that. For this one, I did a little bit with it. The mouth originally was not open, so I sliced it with a razor, and then I heated it with a heat gun, and I pulled it open, then I let it cool, and that's how the mouth is open. I wrapped some plastic wrap, saran wrap, that cellophane, that type of thing. I wrapped around it, heated up with a heating gun, and that made it stick, and it looks a little bit like dried skin or cartilage, that sort of thing. But this is really what I want to show you. I did just start spreading clay around. I just spread it over the entire ball. So the whole thing was engulfed in a thin layer of clay. And here you can see I'm starting to build up the ridge on the eyes. So when it was all done, this is what it looked like. Now you can ignore the spots. Looks like he has the measles. That's just because the tissue paper that I used had sparkles on it. You can't feel them or anything. It doesn't make a difference. Now you'll notice that the features are exaggerated. because, well, first of all, that's the way all of the shrunken heads that I found online look like. So I thought, well, it's a proven method, a proven look, so I just went with it. But I also thought, well, what if they were to make a shrunken head? I don't know exactly the process. I know they do something with hot stones and it causes it to, shrink and that kind of thing. But in my mind, okay, when you do that, the things with cartilage, like your nose, maybe that's not going to shrink as much. Maybe your ears won't shrink as much. Maybe your lips won't shrink as much. So I exaggerated the lips and the nose and the eye sockets, both for look and for practical reasons, because when the lips are bigger, you're going to be able to drill those holes through it in order to put the stitching through. So there's a practical reason too. So before I allowed the clay to dry, I took a skewer. I bought some bamboo skewers. I believe I got those at the grocery store. Pretty cheap. I got like 100 of them for a couple of dollars. They're used to make, skewer like shrimp for barbecue and that kind of thing. So I use that in order to make the holes in the ears and to make the holes in the lips for the stitching and also to make the nostrils. I also used a toothpick in order to do the eyes. I pressed it in there and drew it across a little bit to make the slits of the eyes and to make some wrinkles and some lines on the lips. Did that with toothpicks. Then I set this thing aside and let it dry. I did not buy modeling clay that you have to bake. I just bought air dry, so it took an entire day, 24 hours to dry. Then it was time to paint. Now I saw different shrunken heads of all different colors, tans, grays, and browns, and I just thought to myself, I've never really seen a mummified human body. But I imagine it to be kind of a mottled grayish color, and that's what I went with. And also I thought if this was sitting on the shelf of a museum for 100 years, it might have a little dust that got embedded on it and that kind of thing. So I wanted this kind of grayish look to it, and I think it came out really well. So the one behind me, I actually painted that black with watercolor that I bought at the dollar store. This one, I spray painted it with a flat black spray paint. And I got that spray paint at Lowe's. It was under $3. I bought their house brand, the cheapest spray paint they had. And I just covered the whole thing, spray painted. That took me a few hours. You have to spray a little bit, takes about 10 seconds, let the whole thing dry. Move it to a different position, spray some more, and let the whole thing dry. When it was all dried and black, it looked terrible, didn't look good at all. That's when I got, this looks like gray, but I actually used a kind of a peach or a light brown, a tan colored paint.
You can make it any color you want, but this is kind of what I landed on, and I'll show you how I did it. All I did was use this cheap paint from the dollar store, and I'm putting it over the black spray paint. I got the cheapest paint that I could find at Lowe's for the spray paint, and I'm just going to dab it on like this. And since it's water paint, watercolor, water soluble, I should say, it doesn't really cover real thick, and I like that because you have a lot of control over this. And I try not to brush it too much. I'm going to brush it to get it behind the ears and that kind of thing. But then wherever I brush it, I'm going to dab it because you'll see how it dries. It doesn't dry real dark. So that's all there is to it. I'm just going to dab it like that. And then when it dries, it's going to have kind of this look to it. I know we're not getting the best lighting here. You can bring a little bit of highlight in, and that's going to differentiate, just so you can see that there are some raised spots. I'm going to add some black to this a little later too, but I'll soften that up and just add a little bit of highlight. I don't want it to look like I painted eyebrows on him. He's going to look like Mr. Clean, but you can always soften it up by dabbing. That's going to really dry a lot softer. So that's it. I'm just going to do the whole thing, and I'll show you it when it's all complete.
Just watercolor, tempera, or something that I bought at the dollar store. And I got a cheap dollar store brush. I'm not going to spend a lot of money on this. And I modeled the whole thing up. Oh, wait. We got to back up. Put on the brakes and go in reverse. There was a step in between. I forgot all about the Mod Podge. I didn't paint on the raw clay. Oh, no. I covered that up with a coating of Mod Podge and tissue paper. It makes sort of a paper mache. This is so easy to work with. It's like a glue. It's like a white glue when you open it up. All I did is I spread it on here. I took little pieces of torn up tissue paper, about an inch square, inch and a half, and I would put it on here, and then I would take the brush that was wet with the Mod Podge, and I would push it into all the little crevices and then paint over it with Mod Podge till I did the whole thing. It took almost no time at all because that Mod Podge works so good. You put a layer on, and then you put the tissue paper. I guess you could use Kleenex or toilet paper, anything you want. Tissue paper worked really well. And then I would just push it in the nooks and crannies, and it really took the shape. I did sand the clay a little bit beforehand. So it took down all of those rough, surfaces. And I sanded it first, then I started putting this Mod Podge all over. I just love it because what it did is, you can't really see it very well, but it put little lines and creases. It almost looks like tight skin. And you can see it around the eyes, so it looks almost like laugh lines. I don't think this guy's too happy, and you can see right here, for example, I can see a little bit of stretching, and it really looks neat because it looks like old, dried, stretched flesh. It's awesome. So I would not leave out this step. All right, so we did all the Mod Podge. Then I painted it spray paint black. Then I took the tan color paint and I modeled the whole thing. After that dried, I actually took a real fine brush, a cheap brush, dollar store, or I don't know where I got it, Hobby Lobby or someplace. And I just painted in the crease of the eyes. I wanted that to pop a little bit. I painted the crease of the mouth, the lips, between the lips, that opening. I painted the nostrils, filled them up with some paint. And then I softened it a little bit, and I just darkened in the eye sockets to give it I wanted those eyes to pop out a little bit, see the lines. So I darkened the whole inside along the side of the nose and underneath the eye and over the eye with some black. And I actually put less modeling on the top ridge as well to make that ridge punch pop a little bit. So that's what I did, and I painted it. And I let that dry for a day. This whole process took me several days. It was only a couple hours of work, but you had to let everything dry for a day in between. And then it was time to put the hair on.
Before I do, I'm going to put this loop of twine, and I'm going to put it on the top so it can hang. So I drilled a hole. Now, when you drill a hole is actually kind of critical because it depends where you want the direction of the head to look. If you want it to be facing up, you want to drill the hole more forward. If you're going to hang this high and you want it facing down, you want to drill the hole more toward the back because it's going to hang from wherever that center point is. I put it pretty much in the middle because I think this is going to be pretty much looking straight on. So I drill the hole, and then I'm going to put some hot glue in there, and I do have a knotted piece of twine, and then we're going to stuff it right down inside there. Now it's looking almost like the hole's a little too small. I think I'm going to go ahead and drill a little bigger hole, and then we'll put that twine in there. Okay, that's more like it. It seemed like the hole was really big, but it's going to be just about right. So we're going to put a little hot glue in there. And then we're going to put that inside there. And take that skewer nice and deep. And I'll put a little more glue on top. And there we go. Now we'll let this dry. As it's drying, I'm going to talk a little bit about putting the hair on. When you put the hair, we're going to put it on and glue it in the opposite direction where you want the hair to go. So in other words, if I want the hair to go backward, I'm going to glue it on forward. The reason being, then when you move the hair backward or comb it backward, if you want to think about that way, it's covering up the strip of glue, and you just make layers, almost like you're shingling a house. So if I would want, for example, a few strands to come down here, which I might do, you know, like they're really long sideburns dangling down, I would glue them going upward like that, and then I would let them hang down so the hair itself would cover that glue spot.
Now, if you see, he really doesn't have as much hair as it looks. He only has a little stripe of hair, almost like a mohawk. But after you put the hair on, then you can just spread it all over the place. And, you know, it's like a bald guy doing a comb over, right? It doesn't matter, it's a shrunken head, so it's not like his hair has to be neat. So I've been playing around with this, and the hair is going all over the place now, but I don't care.
I'll put a bead of glue where I want that to go. And I'm not going to overdo it with the glue. I know that'll soak into everything. Just a small little line. And then this hair will drop right on top of that. Just like that. Now you can, maybe you can't tell, but it is sticking to my fingers. And I'm getting hair on my fingers. I gotta be real careful when I do that. And so you can see now when we flip that back, it's gonna look good. It's gonna look more like a natural hairline. And we just have to keep doing that. Just keep moving back layer after layer after layer. And it should look really nice. That's all. That looks pretty good already, doesn't it?
The one behind me, he's just hanging by his hair. And I didn't like that as much. So I figured if I ever want to hide this, it's okay. I'll just cover it with hair and you'll never see it. But I did want to have a way to display this, because this one I'm actually putting in my case, my display case, and so I want it to hang. And that's all there is to it. Now, when I did the stitching, I actually did the stitching before I put the hair in. That I did have to widen the holes a little bit. Remember, I put Mod Podge on here. So before painting, I got one of those bamboo skewers and I opened up the holes again. It was really easy to do because you're just poking through that hardened paper. And I actually took a drill, small drill bit, and I reopened the holes for the lips because I found I was just having too hard of a time getting this twine through. And the way I did that, I thought was kind of clever. I took one little strand of the straw that I use on the top of my TIki bar here, and it looks like it's real straw, but it's plastic. So it's like a thin piece of monofilament, almost like a really super thin fishing line. And I formed it into a loop, and I pushed it just like I was threading a needle. I pushed it up into the hole. So now there's a loop sticking up there. I fed the twine through that loop, and then I pulled it down, and it brought the twine through with it. Worked really well. I tied the knot, I trimmed it off, and the final touch, I took a lighter and I singed this twine a little bit. What that does two things. All the loose fibers, it burns them away, and then it darkens it up a little bit. It looks so cool. I did put a little bit of Mod Podge on these. I didn't want the knot to come undone, so I trimmed it so close I was really concerned. So I put a little Mod Podge on the knot, and that's going to keep it from unraveling. As far as the earrings, that was pretty easy as well. I just fed in a piece of the twine. I bought some beads, and I think I got those at Michael's, but you can get beads anywhere. Now I have a whole big bag of them. I'll be able to make shrunken heads from here to eternity. And with this one, you'll see there's a gap between them. I fed the twine through, tied a knot, put a bead on, tied a knot, left about 1.5 inches, tied another knot, put 2 more beads, tied another knot. And this twine comes in strands, so I just, took all the strands apart, and that's how I got that nice loose look at the bottom. This side I just did a little differently, made it a little shorter. I wanted some variety. And I always feel that when you're making things artistic, unless there's a reason for it, I try not to make things too symmetrical. I think it just adds a little interest to have things different lengths. So I made it a little shorter, and I didn't put the space between there. I just put a knot, I threaded 3 beads, knotted it off, and that one was done. So I think it looks very, very cool. Now, if I forgot any steps, just ask. Ask down in the comments, and I will tell you exactly how I did this. I may learn some new things as I'm doing the Fiji mermaid, and if I learn new techniques or strategies or ideas, I will certainly pass those along. Who knows? I might even end up making a second video about the Fiji mermaid. Now, you could actually make a shrunken head out of this. It'd be much smaller. I don't know. I think this is about the size of a real shrunken head, about a baseball size. But you can make it whatever you want. It's your shrunken head. You can do whatever you want with it. So that's how I did it. I'm happy with it. I think it's great for Halloween, for tiki bars, to scare your sister, whatever you want to do. As always, I'm going to ask that you like, share, and subscribe. And by the way, if you do order from Amazon, once again, if you could please order through my link down below. Because if you click on that, it takes you to Amazon, and then you order, even if you're logged in your account, I get a little bit of a kickback, not much. This channel doesn't make a lot of money, so I am a member of the Amazon Associate Program. So if you click that link and then buy, I get a little tiny piece. Doesn't change what you pay for it. You pay the same amount, but that will help me a little bit, so I'd appreciate the support. So thanks, everyone. I hope to see you back here again. I'm Mark, and this is the Average Me channel.